All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Now, as I was saying in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to add attributes to the text, as well as different colors, styling, and all of that kind of stuff. Now, in the previous video, I briefly showed you how to do this. The way we did it was by adding this curses.a_underline. This is one of the attributes as the last argument to this add string method. Now, that is actually the way that we add attributes. You just add them as the last argument. Now, even if you don't add the coordinates, you can just do this. That's fine. It will still add this as an attribute. Now, this is one of the attributes that I showed you, but I want to show you all of the other ones that we have, as well as how to set the colors. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Now, as you saw in the previous video, the way that I can add an attribute to my text, which is just like a form of styling, is by adding a last argument here to my add string, then putting the attribute that I want. So in the last video, I showed you underline. That gives us underline text, okay? You just add it as another argument, curses.a_underline. There's a few other attributes you can add. I will mention that not all of these are going to work. In some terminals, they may work. In some terminals, they may not work. It's just because it varies on operating systems. And you're going to see here that a few attributes that we have access to just don't work on Windows, or they give us something that's not kind of expected. So for example, I'll show you, let's go with bold. So curses.a_bold, that's another attribute we have. Let's go here and run this, Python tutorial 2. Notice this text is darker than this. I'm actually not sure if you guys will be able to see that, but on my screen it is darker. The editing software that we use might kind of get rid of that. Anyways, we have a_bold. We also have a_blink. Now this is supposed to make the text blink. Again, I'm not sure if it's actually going to do that, but let's run and see. And okay, so it's not blinking, but it gives us kind of a gray highlight here. So take that for what it is. Let's try, we had bold, we had blink, we have reverse. Now what reverse is supposed to do is reverse the background and foreground color of the text. So it's used for kind of like headings and labels and stuff. So let me run this and notice we reversed the background and foreground color. Okay, great. So let's get out of that. What else do we have? We have dim. This is supposed to make the text dim. I mean, that's pretty straightforward. Let's run it and see if it does anything. It doesn't really look like it's dim to me, but maybe it is and I just can't see it. Anyways, that's dim. And then the last one we have is stand out. So let's try stand out and see what that does. Okay, so let's run this and notice stand out is going to do a very similar thing to reverse, although the text is a bit darker, or the highlight is a bit, I guess, brighter than what we had with reverse. Okay, so let's get out of that and let me clear that. All right, so now that we have looked at those attributes, I want to show you how we can add color. It's a lot more interesting than the attributes. So to add a color, we first need to create a color pair. Now a pair is just the foreground and the background color combined together. So what I'm going to do is at the top of my main function here, I'm going to say curses.init_pair. I think that's all you need to do. And I'm going to put the ID of my pair. Now the ID can be any number that you want. I recommend just starting with 1, then going 2, 3, 4, 5, etc., so on and so forth. But you start with the ID, and then you do curses, dot, and then the foreground color that you want. Now, I believe that the way you do this is by doing color underscore and then the name of the color. There's a bunch of different colors. I'm not going to go through all of them, but let's try using blue as our foreground color. And then for our background color, let's go curses.color underscore and maybe something like yellow. This will probably be pretty ugly, but now we have the pair with ID 1 referencing this color pair. So if I want to use this color pair, what I do is I go to my attribute and I change this to curses.color underscore pair. And then I put the ID of my pair. So in this case, I'm going to put the ID 1 because that's what I used for my pair. If I did 2 here, then I would change that to 2. Pretty straightforward. Now, one thing you can also do if you want this to be a little bit easier to read is I could take this, so curses.colorPair1, and I could store this in a variable. I could say blue and yellow is equal to this. And then I could just put blue and yellow here. And now it's a lot easier for me to read and understand what pair references what colors. So up to you. I like to do this. And the reason I'm doing it in all capitals is because this variable is not going to change. It is a constant. So I put it in all capitals. Anyways, let me run the code and show you what we get with blue and yellow. And notice we have blue text on a yellow background. Perfect. Exactly what we expected. So let's look at a few other colors. So let's actually just make another pair. So let's go curses.initPair. Let's go 2. Let's go with color green. And this needs to be in all capitals. And then let's go with color underscore And do we have like a gray? Actually, I don't know if we have a gray. And would it be grey? I guess. Okay, let's do that. So now let's make a new variable. Let's say green underscore, and if we could type properly here, and gray is equal to curses.colorPair2. And then we could change this to green and gray. So let's go green, not like that. Come on, autocomplete, and gray. And there we go. Okay, that was a struggle, but let's now run the code and see what we get. And curses has no attribute color gray. Okay, so it looks like gray is not a valid color. So let's change this to something like black, which is going to be our default background anyways. We still need to add it though, because we're creating the color pair. And now if I go here and I run my code, we get our green text on a black background. Okay, let's do one more here. So we'll go curses.init pair, color underscore, do we have something like an orange maybe? Maybe we do. And let's go with color white. And we'll make this 3. And then we're going to say orange underscore and white is equal to curses.colorPair3. And then this will be orange and white. Okay, orange and white like that. Okay, let's run the code now. Let's see if orange is a valid one. Looks like orange, of course, is not going to be one. So I guess they don't have orange. Let's go with color underscore, and what would be another color we could use here? We could use maybe red, and let's see what we get here. Okay, there we go. We get red text on a white background. So if you want to see all of the different colors, then you can go to the curses documentation. You can just look up Python curses and it will show you all of them. I just wanted to show you a few different examples of the colors. So now though, what I want to show you is how we combine multiple attributes together. So what if I want it to be orange and white and I want it to be bold? How do I do that? Well, the way I do that is I'm going to go down here and do this, is I write the first attribute that I want, then I put this pipe. Now the pipe is just the straight vertical line. And what you can do after this is put the other attribute that you want to combine with it. So if I want it to be blue and yellow and I want it to be bold, then I would say curses dot and then a underscore bold like that. And what this is known as is a bitwise OR operator. You don't have to know that, but what it does is just combine these two attributes together. So that means that this text will now be blue and yellow and bold. So let's run this. And let's see if this is correct. And notice now we have bold and blue and yellow text. Now let's try using the reverse so we can actually verify that this is working. So let's go a underscore reverse. Let's run this. Okay. And now notice it's reversed our text and our background color. So we had, what was it? Blue and yellow, but now we're having yellow on blue because reverses the background and the foreground color. Okay, so that is the different colors and how you combine attributes. Now what I want to show you is how you update something in live time. So I'm actually going to remove all of this for right now. And what I'm going to do is set up a while loop or kind of a counting loop that's going to count to a certain number. And based on what the number is, I'm going to display that number in a different color. So I'm going to import time here. And what I'm going to do is put a for loop. And I'm going to say for I in range 100. And then what we're going to do is refresh every for loop as well as clear the screen. Okay, so we don't need the clear up here. So what I'm going to do inside of this for loop is I'm going to display whatever I is equal to. I'm going to delay for a certain amount of time. And if I is divisible by a certain number, I'm going to display it in blue and yellow. If it's divisible by a different number, I'm going to go green and gray. You'll see what I mean, but let's look at this. So I'm going to say color is equal to, and we'll start by just saying this is going to be blue and yellow. And then I'm going to say if I mod 2 is equal to 0. So if I is even, then I want to display it with a different color. So I'm going to say color is equal to green and, well, I guess green and gray isn't even the correct one. What do we have as the background? It's going to be green and black. So let's get that. Okay, green and black. Okay, now I actually don't need to use the other color. This is fine for right now. So the point is I'm going to store my color in this variable. Then I'm going to display this text. So I'm going to say, let's go std_str dot, and then add string. We want to add this string. Let's just leave it at 0, 0, so we don't need to put any location. And the string is going to be an f string, and I'm going to say count, colon, and then inside of here, I'm going to say I, comma, and then color. Okay, let me talk about what I'm doing here. So the idea is we're going to clear the screen. We're going to pick the color. So we're going to start with a default of blue and yellow. And if we are divisible by 2, so if I is an even number, then what we will do is change the color to green and black. We then are going to display our text. We're going to say count. I'm going to embed the variable I here, so this will be interpreted as a string. In case you're unfamiliar with this, this is known as an F string, and you can directly put variables inside of it by using the curly braces. Only works in Python version 3.6 and above. I'm then specifying the color as the attribute, and this will mean that we're going to change what this text is every iteration of the for loop. Now, the thing is, my for loop is going to run very, very quickly, and I want to actually be able to see my count. So I'm just going to delay here by a certain amount of time so that I'm actually able to see the change to my text. So after I clear the screen and I refresh, then what I'm going to do is say time.sleep, and I'm going to sleep for 0.1 seconds just so that this will take me 10 seconds in total to run. I think my math is correct on that. Anyways, let's go ahead and run this and see if this works. So let's go Python tutorial 2, and notice, there we go, we are changing, and it's going to be flashing back and forth because we're going between even and odd. And let's just wait for this to get to 100, and then we'll press enter and we can get out of it. Okay, so let's hit enter. So that's how you update in live time, or update with refreshing the display. You need to clear the display, draw whatever you want, and then refresh the display. That way you're not going to be drawing over top of something else. So if I don't clear this, right, and I just refresh, then let's see what happens. So let's go here and run the code, and notice that we're just going to keep adding to the screen, right? Because we're not clearing what was currently on there. So our cursor is going to be at the end of wherever we just printed, and we're going to keep adding all this. So clearly this is not what we want, although this did make kind of a cool pattern. Okay, perfect. All right, so with that said, that pretty much covers everything that I need to go through. This has been how to add colors and attributes to your text. In the next video, we're going to talk about windows and padding, which allows us to kind of divide our screen into separate windows and then update only one window at a time so that we're not updating the entire screen when we don't want to be doing that. Anyways, with that said, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next one.